In July, a handful of white supremacists disrupted the monthly meeting of the Santa Monica Committee for Racial Justice. In August, they came back with dozens, but we didn't let them bogart their way into the meeting. They vowed to return in September with hundreds. They vowed to make Santa Monica their new Berkeley. But when they saw how the community had turned out to support CRJ, they turned tail and ran. This Sunday, the Santa Monica Committee for Racial Justice had a very successful and a very peaceful meeting.
Freedom, oh yeah, I'm singing, praying with my mind. Stay on freedom. I'm singing and praying with my mind. Stay on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Walking and talking. I'm walking and talking with my mind. Stay on freedom. Oh yeah, I'm walking and talking with my mind. Stay on freedom. I'm walking and talking with my mind. Oh, stay on freedom. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Woke up this morning with my mind. Stay on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind. Stay on freedom. I woke up this morning. Stay on freedom. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Say, I'm on my way, praise God, I'm on my way. We'll have a unity in diversity. Say amen. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I won't turn back. I won't turn back. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I won't turn back. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I won't turn back. Here we go. I'm on my way. Oh yes, I'm on my way. Now I think there could be some more harmony in this room. Turn to the person next to you and say, I can't wait to hear you sing some harmony. Now you know what to do. Pick a note that the person next to you isn't singing and try it out. Yes, indeed. Now if you don't go, don't stop me now. If you don't go, don't stop me now. If you don't go, don't stop me now. I'm on my way, praise God. I'm on my way, on my way. I'm on my way, to freedom land. I'm on my way, to freedom land. I'm on my way, to freedom land. I'm on my way, praise God. I'm on my way.
anyway, I just wanted to welcome everyone to the September workshop for Committee for Racial Justice. I'm so glad. So my job is to tell you a little bit about some of the rules. So I'm going to explain the rules for some of you if it's your first time here. So some of our rules here are, we just ask while the meeting is going on that there's no interrupting.
Let's see, how many understand that? Okay, raise your hand if you don't understand. Okay.
Okay, we ask that you raise your hands and wait to be called on before speaking.
You understand? Anybody don't understand? Did everybody's neighbor raise your hand?
We ask that you stay in your seats. We ask that there is no rude comments. We ask that there's no mask. We need to see everyone's face that's in here. Everyone understand the rules? Yes. Is there anyone who... Oh, one more, I'm sorry. Oh, number 6, sorry. No videotaping without permission from the steering committee directly. So no videotaping unless you've got clearance from one of the CRJ members. Yeah, so that's cell phones too. So everyone understand that? Okay, so just some housekeeping. The restrooms are out here, men and women's restrooms. Also, if you want to leave, there's a possibility that you will not be able to come back because there are people outside that are waiting out there to come in and sit down. So if you want to stay here, you can leave, but you may not be able to get back in. Does everyone understand that? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to pass it over to Pastor Janet.
Some of your first time, I'll just let you know that we started after a racial incident at Santa Monica High School, where a black student was chained to a locker by 2 white students in the wrestling room, and then they went in the other room and said "slave for sale," and there was a noose with the brown dummies thing, and there was a there was a noose with a brown dummy, and then they went in the other room and said "slave for sale." So somebody gave us a call and said, "What are you going to do?" We went to the school board and then we spoke up, and then that's how it formed. We didn't sit down and say we want to have this committee. We were formed out of an incident. So ever since then we've been working with the school board, and it's wonderful things have happened at the school district. It's amazing, and part of it is because some of the school board members attend our monthly meetings and they've been working with us. So we're really happy about that. We also have an area on mass incarceration. We work with Justice Not Jail. We do a lot of things in terms of mass incarceration. We also try to, we partner with a lot of different groups. One of them is AWARE. One of them is White People for Black Lives. Because for white people, it's very difficult to understand the context. We need a lot of help. So those are kind of groups that do help us. So we work with those kind of groups. Also, here tonight, some of you know that what happened last month in the Committee for Racial Justice, and so what I want to let you know is that the religious community has your back. And so I wanted to introduce them and have them say just their name and where they're from. I'm just going to pass the mic down the line, I guess.
My name is Kathleen Benjamin. I'm a licensed practitioner with Centers for Spiritual Living and Agape International Spiritual Center.
I'm Neil Comas Daniels. I'm the rabbi at Beth Shir Shalom in 19th California.
Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca Benefield DeJour. I'm a Unitarian Universalist minister and I live at 18th and Pico. This is my park. I'm here 3 days a week with my kids. It's wonderful to be a part of something like this. And and to see how many people are coming out to be in this community at this time. It means a lot to me as a mother and as a resident of this neighborhood, so I'm really glad to see you all here. I also serve as a part of the staff of Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice.
Kurt Rayner from the Santa Monica Quaker meeting.
I'm Rabbi Aryeh Cohen. I'm the Rabbi in Residence of Bend the Arc Jewish Action and Bend the Arc, a Jewish Partnership for Justice in Southern California. I also serve on the board of Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice, and I teach at the American Jewish University in the Rabbinical School. Really happy to be there. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. Happy to be able to support.
My name is Kim Dortilli, and I'm one of the pastors at Bel Air Presbyterian Church. So we're the neighbors of yours, just down the street on Mulholland, just west of the 405.
Good evening, my name is Tony Vasquez. I'm on the Santa Monica City Council and here in solidarity with you folks.
Kevin McKeown. I'm also on the Santa Monica City Council, and I think that having hundreds of people here today in our park celebrating diversity is the best possible.
Hi, I'm Ted Winter. I'm also on the City Council, and I'm currently serving as mayor of the City of Santa Monica. I know our council colleague, Glean Davis, is over there. And I, like Kevin and my colleagues, am pleased to see you all here, combating intolerance with tolerance and love and understanding, because I think that's an important thing we need to do.
My name is Rabbi Len Muroff. I'm a hospice chaplain who works in this area. I'm not tall enough to be on the city council. I'm a member of the Jewish community on the west side, ECAR. I'll be leading Jewish High Holiday services at Virginia Tech. And a week from this Saturday, I'll be bringing a message of hope to the temple in Charlottesville that was traumatized. So I'll bring this message of peace and folks who can get along. And if anyone wants information about it, I'm happy to do it, but we're all brothers and sisters.
I'm Reverend Gary Bernard Williams. I'm the pastor at St. Mark United Methodist Church in South Los Angeles. I'm here to support this community and my colleague, Pastor Janet.
Rabbi Michael Perlmuter. I'm a resident of Santa Monica and active in the Church in Ocean Park, and also doing my best to bring equality and understanding to different faiths and understanding and life.
I'm Reverend Floyd McHithen. I'm a United Methodist pastor in the city of Culver City.
My name is Karen Crawford, and I am a pastor also with Kim at Bel Air Presbyterian Church at Mulholland Drive. We have a lot of our parishioners who live in Santa Monica. We have parishioners who teach and many students at Samo High. So we are very grateful to be invited tonight.
So we thank you so much for, this is a show of support, but not just a show of support. These are people who are really dedicated to fighting against racism. So, and for having your back. They came out because they don't want this to happen in this community or anywhere ever again, what happened last month. So thank you so much. Some of these, it's not an easy time to come out for people, religious leaders. So thank you so much for coming out, and you're welcome to stay. Lydia around? Lydia, redneck. Lydia. Okay, so we have a couple of people we have a lot of allies. Hold on. And some of people have been wanted to know what's going on, so I just wanted to let you know that these are our friends.
I'm with Redneck LA. My name is Lydia. We are a community defense organization to stand up to white supremacists and neo-Nazis. We saw what happened last month, and we don't want that to happen again. So we're going to try to do our best to protect y'all.
We're going to begin our program. We do have a program every month here. So if hopefully you'll come back. It's usually the first Sunday night of every month from 6 to 8:30. It's always the same time, and we always start with a wonderful frolic, as you can see. So I'm going to turn it over now to start with our program with Kim Harris.
Just to introduce myself, I do see some friends here. I'm Dr. Kim Harris. I'm a professor of theological studies at Loyola Marymount University. One more time, we have come here to sing together. One more time, one more time, one more time. We have come here to sing together. One more time, sing again now. One more time, one more time. We have come here to sing together. One more time, one more time, one more time. We have come here to sing together. One more, stand for justice. One more time, one more time. We have come here to stand for justice. One more time, one more time, one more time. We have come here to stand for justice. One more time, one more time, one more time. We have come here to sing together. One more time, one more time, one more time. We have come here to stand together. One more time. And we know we do not stand alone. We know that there are so many on whose shoulders we stand. We remember the first people of this land who are still here, singing, praying, living, loving, struggling, building. We remember the ancestors of so many of us who came in so many different ways. On top of the ship, a low deck in the ship, walking through the desert, lying on a plane, so many different ways. We remember those who worked for justice, whose stories we continue to tell. Say some of their names. Who do you remember?
Paul Robeson. Frederick Douglass.
John Brown.
Harriet Tubman.
James Ray.
And for these ancestors, we pour a libation. And we remember those on whose shoulders we stand in our families. Somebody taught y'all about this. Somebody talked to you about this. It might be those in your birth family. It might be those in your extended family. What are some of their names? For their We remember those who died for freedom, those martyrs, those innocents. Say their names.
Cynthia Wesley.
Mark Mason.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Gabriel Prophet. Steve Biko.
There are so many who we remember, who are with us now in spirit. And so we say that we will pull together, put one hand up, and say, Harambe, and pull it down. We will do that 7 times. Are you ready? Harambe, 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 Harambe. Counting is good. One for good. And we remember, well, there are many names we could say. God of the universe, the creator, the great spirit. We have so many names who we know also impels us to be here. And so let us sing a song that, you know, these days this song needs to be redeemed. Folks chuckle when they start singing Kumbaya. But you know, people sang this song being beaten and fire hosed. This is not about play. This is about calling in the spirits. Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Oh, come by here. We need freedom, Lord. We need freedom, Lord. Come by here. We need justice, Lord. We need justice, Lord. Come by here. We need peace, oh Lord. We need peace, oh Lord. Come by here. Some of our churches say
come here with many burdens. So I would like you to think about what burdens you're coming here with tonight. What are some of the burdens? And then we will respond. Give us courage. What are some of the burdens that you have? What's burdening you right now? Health. Give us courage. What do we say together? Give us courage.
What about social justice?
Pardon?
Anxiety.
Anxiety. Give us courage.
Lack of affordable housing.
Give us courage.
Someone said worried about social justice.
Give us courage.
Self-confidence.
Give us courage.
Broken heart.
Give us courage.
Family justice.
Give us courage.
Addiction.
Give us courage. Give us courage.
Mass incarceration.
Give us courage.
Industrial complex, military.
Give us courage. Now let's say that again, and we're going to say, we have courage. Right? Okay, let's say the same things you said before. Homelessness. We have courage. We have courage.
Military industrial complex.
We have courage.
Self-confidence.
We have courage.
Racial injustice.
We have courage.
Lack of affordable housing.
We have courage. We have courage. We have courage.
Addiction.
We have courage.
Mass incarceration.
We have courage. We have courage. All right, so for what gives us courage, we have courage. Look in the room, look around you. We have courage because of who's here. We have courage because of one another. We have courage because, you know what's in this room besides just what we look like we're in? Who's in this room? What's in this room is a lot of experience and passion and faith and people who are working for justices every single day of their lives. So some of the people, you have no idea who's in this room. But those people, if we all work together and with the people outside, that courage, we don't need any more courage, we just need to do it. You know what I'm saying? We got the clergy here, everybody's here. So we have what we need. We have what we need. We just need to organize it, right? We have the National Lawyers Guild here. Oh my God. We have so many partners that we just need to get it together. We could change whatever we need to change, okay?
Right.
We don't need to wait around. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know that and to give you courage, because if we could come together every month like this and every day and every week, we would really make a difference in this world, even for Trump.
So repeat after me, please. We will help each other.
We will help each other.
We will build each other up.
We will build each other up.
We will teach each other.
We will teach each other.
We will learn from each other.
We will learn from each other.
We will speak kindly to each other.
We will speak kindly to each other.
We will get to know each other.
We will get to know each other.
We will be aware of each other.
We will be aware of each other.
We will help to heal each other.
We will help to heal each other.
We will thank each other.
We will thank each other.
We will cry together.
We will cry together.
We will laugh together.
We will laugh together.
We will sing together.
We will sing together.
We will carry each other.
We will carry each other.
We will love each other.
We will love each other.
We're gonna keep on walking forward. Keep on walking forward. Keep on walking forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gotta get those harmonies going. We're gonna keep on walking forward. Keep on walking forward. keep on walking forward, never turning back, never turning back. We're gonna keep on loving boldly, keep on loving boldly, keep on loving boldly, never turning back, never turning back. We're gonna keep on speaking loudly. Keep on speaking loudly. Keep on speaking loudly. Never turning back. Never turning back. We're gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Oh, we're never turning back. Never turning back. This light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All around Santa Monica, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. All around Santa Monica, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh yes, all around Santa Monica, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Now just say that word, shine. Shine, 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 shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Shine, 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 shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Shine, 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 shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, this little light of mine, oh yeah, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, one more time. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All right.
There has been a request that Kim Harris now go outside and do that. Really, they want you to sing. They want somebody to go out and sing with them in a minute. But I just want to mention that a couple more clergy have come in since I introduced the clergy. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, and David Farley's here. Want to say who you are?
I'm the Director of Justice and Compassion Ministries for the California Pacific Conference of the United Methodist Church.
Welcome. There was couple more, but, okay. Well, I just want to let you know and remind you all that you're welcome here. You're welcome if you're tired. You're welcome if you're awake. You're welcome if you spend too much time on Facebook. You're welcome if you don't have a computer. You're welcome if you had too much to drink last night. You're welcome if you're a teetotaler. You're welcome if you're Muslim. You're welcome if you're Jewish. You're welcome if you're Christian. You're welcome if you're Baha'i. You're welcome if you're Wiccan. You're welcome if you're atheist. You're welcome if you're agnostic. You're welcome if you're none of the above. Some kind of combination. You hate the word religion. You're welcome no matter what. So welcome to the Committee for Racial Justice. Only ones who are not welcome here are people who believe that one of those categories should not be here. Okay? If you believe that one of those categories should not be here, well, maybe it's yours that should not be welcome. So just think about that. So that's who we are here, and that's who we always will be, and that's who we always are. So welcome to the Committee for Racial Justice. And next, we will have Santa Monica Parents for Racial Justice are going to do a program, and I will invite them up. Come on up. Okay, so they're going to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Hannah. Could we ask you guys to rotate your chairs 180 degrees? No, 90 degrees. Closer.
Okay, while you're doing that, I need to make an announcement. Okay, if you are leaving this room, you can either take off your green band or just allow one person to come in while you go out. Okay, there are people that are still waiting to come in. If you just leave and they don't know there's a spot here, then it could be a thing. Let somebody know that you're leaving.
Hi, thank you all for coming out this evening, and obviously your presence here is very important to all of us here. So we're all connected here. So before we get right into Parents for Racial Justice here, we also wanted to introduce that last year we realized there was a couple of incidents that were happening with children in the Santa Monica School District, and so we decided on the steering committee that we would have an educational aspect. A part of the CRJ that extends not only all of the work that we are doing, but that specifically focuses on children in the school district and specifically children of color. So, what's important to us, like it is for all of you guys here, is freedom, justice, safety, and equal education, and that's something that's very important to all of us, and all of us can relate to that as community members in this community and a broader community, and also as parents here. So we have started over the summer. We met, and we are looking for we're looking for in every school. We would like to have a group of an advocacy group that are parent based for every school in Santa Monica. Yeah, so Hannah here is going to explain some of the sessions that we ran and what we are looking to do to implement this in all of the schools here in Santa Monica.
So over the summer we ran 2 sessions along the theme of what would SMM-USD look like if Black students matter. And what came out we sat with groups of parents from the schools across the district, across all age groups. And what came out predominantly as the primary goal, primary concern, was that people feel isolated. And what came as an overwhelming solution to that was bringing back the parent groups that exist within the individual schools, and also networking them. So making sure that each school has a presence for parents of black children, and that those groups are networked throughout the district. So if your school has a parent group in existence that we might not know about, we would love to connect with you. If you are a parent at school that does not have a parent group, we would love to hear from you and help you replicate some of the existing groups that are currently functioning within the district. I also do double duty as part of Santa Monica Parents for Racial Justice. So we can move into this presentation right now. So, Santa Monica Parents for Racial Justice. Is it really quiet? Is there a way of...
You have to hold it closer.
You gotta make love to it. Oh, thank you. So Santa Monica Parents for Racial Justice is a group that started out of two local elementary schools actually that share a site. It's a multiracial group of parents committed to fighting racial justice. The objective was to educate ourselves and our community about race-conscious parenting and effective anti-racism. So the research clearly shows that children not only recognize race from a very young age, but develop biases by the ages of 3 to 5. So this is from Erin Wooten's study, Children Are Not Colorblind. And what we found individually as a theme is that when you talk to white families about this, that their overwhelming concern is protecting their children's innocence. Our kids can't handle that, they're too young, we don't want to upset them. And that in itself is privilege, given that families of color have to live with the realities of violence every day.
So, hi, I'm Shuli, and just to give you a little bit of background on how we started this. Basically, as somebody who's been involved in anti-racism work from before I had children, I was connected to various groups that meet locally, but also different websites and different organizations that are formed nationally. One is called Raising Race-Conscious Children. They're out of the East Coast. And they offer webinars that you can host in your home or in a park or wherever you'd like to. I decided to just gather some friends of mine together, or anyone at the school who wanted to come and do this webinar with me. So it just started really as like a social event in my home. But I think we really learned a lot from that. Some of the strategies that this group puts out there in terms of how to engage children is really first through the use of children's books. Whether or not a book has fair representation of children of color or not is something you can comment on. You can notice, oh, I noticed that all the people in this picture book look white. What do you think about that? Very simple things that you can just start to name race. Often race is named when it belongs to people of color, but race is not named as a thing that white people have. So that's something we're working to really teach our children that we all have a root. There's a history for all of us. Really being open to what children's questions are, making space in our family conversations as askable parents. Children, especially as they get into that kind of 7, 8, 9-year-old, are very focused on what's fair and what's not fair. So using those kinds of words and language is very helpful to talk to kids about injustice and why something is not fair that might be happening out in the world. And of course you have to think about the difference in talking to a 3-year-old versus talking to a 9-year-old, right? There's different developmental ways that kids can understand these concepts. And then ultimately really teaching our kids how to be activists and how to create change, whether that's in their school or in their community or in the world. So after this webinar, we kind of sat there and thought, what's next? Where do we go with this? We would like, we wanted to make sure that the way we were talking to our kids in our homes is also a common language that they're hearing at school, which we didn't really feel was happening. So one of our goals is really to try to get teachers of our schools and our school district and our school board all in line with having, and we'll talk about that a little bit later with our goals, but making sure that we have some curricula in our schools that are not only just like multiculturalism and diversity, that's maybe a starting point, but really moving more towards naming injustice and power and privilege and some of these more complicated concepts. One thing that we definitely learned was that it was very important to have our school principals on board with this. You cannot have a successful school event if your leadership is not on board. Fortunately, both of the principals at our school site were very on board and have attended all of our meetings. And basically we went from there and just started meeting with this multiracial group of parents from our campus to talk about how we could start a series of parent education events.
So we began this series at the beginning of 2016, and the first workshop was in March, and it was based on the concept of addressing the myth of colorblindness. So we kind of didn't know what to expect, really. We set it up, we flyed for it, we promoted it, and we kind of got ourselves into the mindset that there was going to be a big pushback. That we were going to get a bunch of white parents turning out and saying, "What are you talking about? I don't have privilege," and that kind of thing. And what we found was that people came and they were really willing to listen and share, and they were open to learning. So that was really refreshing. We had a decent turnout. This is, again, the site is 2 schools sharing one site. So we were able to collaborate on that basis. We then, at that point, created a Facebook page, which is fairly active, and you are welcome to find that. I can produce the address at some point. I don't know off the top of my head, but I can find it. We ran a second segment in May using, is it Beverly Channing Tatum? Daniels Tatum's book, Why Are All Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? Based on, and it was like a book club basically. And the theme was embracing a cross-racial dialogue. And our third session was the third session was impacted by the norovirus grill. That was so much fun this year. And it was based on exploring privilege. And it was a call to action, kind of asking people to move past the sort of liberal hand-wringing of, oh, it's terrible and I feel guilty and this is awful and I don't know what to do, to, okay, I have some privilege, how do I use it?
I'm sure. Well, yeah, they were. He was so profound. I said, listen, I know your son's not a Nazi. Don't worry about it. That's not the issue. The son runs off and said, The issue here is that they weren't all black people, but that's his image. Because you see, it wasn't the monsters that were horrific. It was those people were, and that's the image in his mind. And he's so young, he couldn't see that there were actually different groups of people as those cannibals. He only saw black people. And his father, you can just see, was tortured. He says, I don't know. This problem is so big, I don't know if we can ever make it right. And I said, you see, now we're having another conversation, he and I. He goes, it's just so big, I don't know if we can make it right. I said, perhaps. I said, I have to believe that we can. And so his daughter runs out, and now he has a son and his daughter, and he's disturbed, though, you can tell. And he's walking away, and Dennis looks at me, and I look at Dennis, and he gets to the escalator, and he stops. And he takes both of his children, and he turns around and he walks back to me, and he says, but I will make it right with them. Because I can make it right. See that? That's where he made it. That's where, those moments.
Right, so I just love that video. Every time I watch it, it's like the first time. I just think it's so powerful in that it is these moments. It's these little moments which we could easily let go as white parents, especially. But we have that opportunity in any moment to just talk about it, just to ask the kid a question, just to give our little perspective on, and make it right in those moments. And I really feel like that's what we're doing here as parents in our community, just trying to take it moment by moment with each child that we can.
So the third session that we ran, and again based on the idea of getting people to move past inaction, getting people to move past that kind of paralysis of I know this is wrong, but I don't have the power to do anything about it, was exploring privilege. And again, we weren't sure kind of what kind of a reaction, because privilege is a funny one and it brings up all kinds of stuff for people. We get a lot of push. I can't be privileged, I'm poor. I can't be privileged, I'm female. I can't be privileged, I'm disabled. I'm marginalized in some other way. So we did an exercise, and I cannot now remember the name of the people that put that together, but we had cups. We had a red cup and a blue cup. We each had a bag of M&Ms. And each cup represented a position of privilege. And what did we decide the opposite of privilege was? Oppression. So depending on the scenario described in the list, you dropped your M&M into the cup. So, can you remember any questions?
Like that, I don't know if everybody's done the privilege walk, where it was like statements like, I had many books in my home growing up, or I've never been followed around a store because of the color of my skin. So just different statements like that. And for each one, if it was true for you, you would put either the privilege cup or I think we decided not to use the word oppression for some reason. I can't remember where we landed. Actually, I just want to acknowledge first, there's many people in the room who are part of our group, so if anybody wants to jump in, let us know. So that was just a really good illustration of where we...
So following that, then we each sat there with 2 cups of M&Ms. I ate mine, I don't know if you ate yours. I consumed my privilege. And we had discussion questions. So what did this bring up for you? What kind of, it's interesting looking when you're sitting and you're looking at a cup, depending on the ratio of M&Ms in one cup or another, it kind of lets you know where you might fit in society in terms of the spectrum. One of the questions that was interesting to me was, what privilege do you have that your children do not, and what privilege do your children have that you do not? And that was kind of eye-opening. It was interesting. As a white parent of a biracial child, obviously I have a lot of privilege that she does not have. The only one I could come up with that she has that I don't is that she has birthright citizenship. But that's something that in theory I could correct. I don't know if correct is the right word. I could change. And we have, do we have the intersectionality video?
Intersectionality.
So when Hannah was talking before about how privilege really is a complicated concept for people, I think what has helped me to explain it to somebody who's maybe not getting it is the concept of intersectionality, in that you have privileges in certain areas but not in others, and that makes you who you are. But it's still important to look at where you do have those privileges and what you can do with it. So just because you don't have privilege in every area doesn't mean that you can't do anything with the privilege that you might have in one area. This video will explain a little bit more.
Have you heard this word before? Even if you have, you might not know what it means. Let's take a look at it. The first part's easy enough. Intersection, a place where things come together. Intersectionality refers to the reality that we all have multiple identities that intersect to make us who we are. It also gives us a way to talk about oppressions and privileges that overlap and reinforce each other. This term dates back to the 1980s and legal scholar Kimberly Crenshaw. She noticed that we didn't have an effective way to talk about how the experiences of black women are different from the experiences of black men and of white women. How? Black women endure both gender discrimination and racial discrimination. Over the last 30 years, scholars, educators, and activists have expanded the use of the word intersectionality to talk about identities beyond race and gender. Let's look at a few examples. Jerry has a disability, and his family lives below the poverty line. He is the oldest of 10, which requires him to do a lot of caregiving, and sometimes keeps him out of school. No one in the school counseling office has talked to Jerry or his parents about his plans for after graduation. He has applied for several jobs, but never gets called back. Fatima is Muslim and recently came to the United States from Somalia. She finds that many people at her school make assumptions about her values and abilities before they speak to her. Many of her classmates think she shouldn't be at their school at all. Greta comes from an affluent family. Both her parents and grandparents went to college, and her father owns a successful business. She doesn't think about her identity very often, but she does think of herself as someone who will go to college and get a good job once she graduates. Think about Greta's situation as opposed to Fatima's or Jerry's. Fatima and Jerry are members of marginalized groups. They don't get to choose whether or not to think about their identities. Greta, on the other hand, can ignore intersectionality if she wants to. Life isn't the same for everyone, even for people who share identity characteristics. By adopting an intersectional lens, we have a better opportunity to understand why and to change the institutions that help and harm us based on who we are. Want to learn more? Read our story, Teaching at the Intersections, in the summer 2016 issue of Teaching Tolerance magazine.
That just reminded me the teaching tolerance social justice standards are actually being adopted by our school district, which I think is a huge move forward. I wanted to just acknowledge that I believe the M&M activity, if not even more of that, came from Shelley Touchlock's work, Witnessing Whiteness, I think, or the Unmasking Whiteness workshop. So thank you, Shelley, for allowing us to shamelessly steal your work. Big fans. Somebody's phone is ringing. So we just wanted to share. So these are just a few of the graphics that we used in some of the workshops. I wanted to kind of show you some of the images. This one was from the privilege night. So I think this is actually, can you go back there for 1 second? One before, yeah, just the piece about becoming aware of privilege not as a source of guilt. And I think a lot of folks get stuck in that place and can be very difficult to move beyond that. But through a lot of the work that we can do on ourselves, and just thinking about our histories and how we can kind of sit with some of the uncomfortable feelings when you become aware of privilege, can help you move beyond that into action. And I think where we ended this workshop was having people kind of list the privileges that they hold and one thing that they could do to take action in that area. So for example, if you are a person of means and you have class privilege, you can donate money to racial justice organizations. If you are a man and you have gender privilege, you can call out sexism when you see it. If you are an able-bodied person, you can use your privilege to make change in those areas. So there's always something that you can do with the privilege that you have.
And these are some more examples in addition to the video of some of the infographics and resources that we pulled. And again, these aren't ours, these are things that we pulled either from curriculums that we found online or other resource bases. But they're useful in terms of illustration. So what we've learned along the way, this is a project that we began, as I said, at the beginning of 2016. And again, we were definitely anticipating a lot more pushback than we got. We were anticipating hostility, I think. I think the last meeting that we had prior to running the first section was us predominantly talking about what are we going to do if people get loud, what are we going to do if... And it really wasn't. It was very productive. People were incredibly raw. People were very genuine about sharing their individual stories. And they came willing to engage. And that was really inspiring. There was definitely a need for affinity groups. And that's within all sorts of different areas. So parents of color, parents of African American children, white parents with differing purposes. And again, not as a replacement. People get very funny about affinity groups. So why are you sectioning everybody off? And that's not instead of multiracial groups, but that's kind of in addition to. And we felt like it was important to create safe spaces for people to be able to be really candid. In terms of where we would like to see this go, when I was introduced to this, I was kind of told that eventually one of the end games that it would be replicated across all of the schools within the district, which kind of sounds like a lofty goal, but it's doable. We know that there are, this was based out of Muir and Smash initially. We know that there is interest at Rogers. We believe there may be interest at other sites. This is not something where we have any area of expertise at all really, but we are kind of figuring it out as we go along, and we're happy to share the resources that we've put together. So if your school is interested in doing something similar, let us know. We will happily send you all the resources that we've put together and the kind of things that we've learned so far. Another one of the goals was to connect parents. There's obviously a lot of people feeling like they know that there's something wrong and they want to do something, but not knowing where to start. And actually anything that brings groups of parents together and starts a conversation is powerful in that aspect. And also impacting curriculum, like Shuli said earlier. It's great if we're able to do this at home. Our kids are at school for 6 hours plus a day. It would be great if we could also, as groups of parents, go in and make a meaningful impact to the curriculum. There are classes at our school where they're still building missions in 4th grade. It would be great to be able to approach the staff body and really look at them and ask them, challenge them to revise their curriculums. Another possible alignment of our work, actually this has started, this has happened, there's other groups that have formed within our community. So in addition to things like CRJ, Parenting for Change, which is something that Shirley is very involved in and we'll be able to talk to, and also Families in Action.
So yeah, before I get into talking for Parenting for Change, I just want to thank the Committee for Racial Justice for reaching out and partnering with us at Santa Monica Parents for Racial Justice. There's a lot of overlap that we can do with the education work that was just mentioned earlier, and advocacy in our community, just so that all of the kids here can really, we can move the dial in the next generation. I want to acknowledge the folks in the room who are from our parent groups and are here tonight, and for everyone who took a lot of their day to be here and make sure that this room was packed. So we really appreciate everybody's presence and willingness to listen to what we have to say today. So I wanted to just share a little bit about another group that has formed within the last few years here, kind of throughout LA, not just on the west side. It's a group that we called Parenting for Change, Family Conversations About Race. So this is not necessarily focused on the schools, but it's just a group of parents and educators that all had some connection to AWARE, or People in AWARE LA, and came together to kind of figure out how do we get more parents talking about race with their kids. So we decided to approach the farmers market here in Santa Monica on Main Street, and we've had 5 booths at the market in between October 2016 and then just one last month, where we engage parents in conversations and provide them some written resources while the kids are doing like a cute little art activity that's really focused on little, 3, 4-year-old kids. We had a play date at a local park in July, and our hope is to bring some of these conversations into libraries and bookstores for some racial justice story times or things like that. So really just anything that we can get families to come together, provide resources on how to really dialogue with your kids about these issues. So we just have a couple examples of our flyers, just some of the little art activities that we've done. And if you would like the resources that either of our groups have, I think the best way is probably to either just reach out to us individually after, or join our Facebook page, and we're going to put some files on there. So we have a great resource list of books, websites, articles for parents and for teachers and educators. We have a little bookmark that we hand out at the farmers market that has some talking points, resources on the back, and then Raising Race-Conscious Children's Strategies page has some really great how-tos for parents. So yeah, we would love to hear from you. Please keep in touch. You can look us up on Facebook, Santa Monica Parents for Racial Justice. It is really a group for parents and people that are interested in these issues. So there's a few little questions on there to make sure that you're a parent. And then Parenting for Change LA is actually a Facebook group that's more open and open to anyone across the country. We have over 300 books on there. And the more the merrier. So please join us. Happy to stay and talk after if anybody has personal questions or wants to be in touch to get our resources. And happy to open it up to, do we have time for questions now? Yeah.
In your work, have you found any of the kids calling out other kids' privileges? And then how are you dealing with that? Because that could then be hurtful, etc. So is that happening, and if so, what are you doing with it?
I can't think of any instances where that's happened. Like kids being like, oh, you're privileged, you're more privileged than me. I mean, all of our work really has focused on the parents right now. So I'm not sure if other parents who are involved in our groups have noticed that in their own kids. That's an interesting question we could certainly take.
Okay, wonderful. We want to give a round of applause. Here for CRJ, I'm sorry. Okay, now it's time for Q&A. For those who don't know me, my name is Robbie Jones. Over 50-year resident in Santa Monica, proud to say it. Lovely seeing all of you, really. I just want to say thank you. And thanks for coming out, thanks for supporting. So this is how we do this. I'm going to count off for questions, and that's how we're going to get through this rest of the part of the evening. And I'm going to ask you to still remember the rules, and we are also still in session. So as people are talking, if you could just keep it quiet because their question, and if you have a question, not necessarily a commentary on what's happening. We want to take the questions first. So are people leaving and not coming back, or? No. Let's count off,
You wanna leave some time if you people to go out? Is that what we're doing?
We're good. Let's go.
We're good? We're good. Okay. Okay, let's count it off. 1, 2, 3. 2 more. 4, 5. Remember your number. I won't remember, but your neighbor will. Okay.
I have to say the question has to be preceded by a comment. And it has to do with Colin Kaepernick. And since Colin Kaepernick has more or less gone political, the ability to more or less look at his talent has been lost. Also, having said that, minors and youth are mimicking him and refusing, or more or less standing with him. And the danger is there's backlash for Colin Kaepernick, and I'm wondering if there's that same backlash for these kids to where they can see something politically, but that's being ignored. Their talent is being ignored based on their political stance. And what, if anything, are you doing to interface with coaches and or instructors that have that blindness to a person's ability simply because of a political stance that he may be saying? Civil rights, these kids are going through some of the same things in terms of abuses, as everybody else, but yet still they're performing athletically.
Thank you, Craig. Okay. All right. You guys, is somebody put that into a question? Smaller for me. You got it, hands? Okay.
Craig, you already know I don't know anything about sports, but in terms of the kids in the classroom, one of the things that we've seen over and over again is that kids have a really strong sense of right and wrong. Like, that gets cloudy as you get older. Elementary age kids particularly are rabidly obsessed with doing the right thing and whether or not something is just, not just whether or not it's permitted, but whether or not it's right and whether it should be permitted. So there isn't a huge backlash against the kids from their peers. Some of the teachers wish the parents would go away, but the kids themselves tends to kind of figure that shit out between them.
Okay, 2. 2.
Hi, I'm Ann Panalala. Question about curriculum, because I've noticed sometimes in the stuff that the kids bring home and some of the stuff that's on the State Department website that is very biased, very racist. And what can we do as a community to change that? I know that we are fortunate now to have our local former school board member, Ben Allen, as the chair of the Senate Ed Committee. So I'm just wondering if you guys have noticed it, number one, in the elementary
personally is really secondhand that you think this is it right with me, that's a conversation that I would have with is there like, do you have to take it this way? Is there a different angle we can take on this? Somebody might have an issue with that, right? I think with that, like, that is a part of the history of that site, if you don't want to just there's a way to talk about it.
Okay, let's count off again. 1, anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4.
5.
1. Oh, 5, I'm sorry.
Teresa?
5. I'm sorry, you should have been 1 after. But you had your hand up. Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm going back to the curriculum. Because my kids have gone through the school system. And to me, it's a little like the statue in the public park issue. You know, if there's Robert E. Lee in the public park, that says something. And in a curriculum, if you're hearing, oh, these missions are great, and the Indians benefited from this, that says something. And when you read the history books about the Civil War years and the pre-Civil War years, and there's so little really there, it says a lot. And that's what all the kids hear, and that's what they grow up thinking, unless they hear it elsewhere. So what's in the curriculum is really important, and it's really putting too much on the parents to push for this too, but in a way, who else would? You know, and my kids have gone through the system, and it's appalling what they really learn, what's in the book, the textbooks. And someone's got to pressure that we need a much fuller story. So that's why I can't let it go.
2. Who's 2? 2.
I think it was me.
You think it was you?
I don't know if I need it either.
Okay.
I'm Karen Gunn, the chair of the Human Relations Council, and I'm so glad I know about your project. Let me preface my question real quickly. I sat next to someone on a plane who was aware of her white privilege. She is a Santa Monica resident, an employee at Goldman Sachs. The privilege should be obvious given what I just said. And she recognizes her racism, and her privilege, and she has her kids in private school. So I noticed that you said you're trying to make an incursion into the private school sector. Oh, maybe I didn't. I thought maybe there was a connection you said you made with them. Oh, okay. So then my question, let me reframe it. Have you considered how to do that, and do you need some partners to help you with that? Because privilege is insulated in the private school system. And it is where those that have that economic means are able to protect that privilege, or at least insulate themselves from it. So, do you have any ideas about that?
I think if we had maybe like more of a formalized curricula for parent ed nights we could put together and then of course share out to other schools, if we could get to that point. I also have seen though, and I'm not diminishing your point, but sometimes private schools, because they don't have the constraints of X, Y, and Z curriculum, they can do more creative things, and the teachers have more flexibility in bringing in a different view on the mission project, for example. My kids aren't in private schools, so I don't know exactly what's going on, but I would imagine there's some positives to that, and then some insularity, as you mentioned. So yes, I think it would be great. Like, I think there's schools that would be open to it here, like PS1 maybe, or, I don't know all the private schools. Wildwood, I know, has a really pretty strong social justice lens, so it depends on the school.
Thank
you.
Okay. 3. Who's next?
Hey, I'm Kelly Priest. I am on a task force in Culver City for Culver City Unified School District. Many school districts LAUSD and probably Santa Monica Malibu Unified adopted sanctuary resolutions shortly after the election. Culver City adopted an extensive one, and our task force, the Inclusion, Respect, and Diversity Task Force, is tasked with translating some of the intent of that resolution into policy and programming. So, my question for you is, does Santa Monica Malibu Unified have some kind of parallel task force? I'm pretty sure there was a sanctuary resolution of some kind, and could that be an avenue for you to bring your program more district-wide, and also could we work together? And also, I've spent the last year writing curriculum on social learning, including racial justice and anti-bias curriculum, along with training from Teaching for Tolerance. So if we could work together, then maybe I could help you translate some pieces into curriculum, and then you could help Culver City.
That's it, thumbs up. Okay. All right, 4. Okay. Good man from UCLA.
I've been a teacher and I've served on boards, and I rather turn to the comments made about the mission. And at first I thought that maybe it would be dismissive, that is, why bother, since, at least on the surface of it, the assignments that are given to the children seem so innocuous. But on the other hand, in California, and we are in California, the plantation is the mission. I don't know if an approach that emphasizes the very important aspect of personal relations and the development of more humanist values on a one-to-one basis really does it completely, and anything that one might do singularly and not do it all alone. But I was wondering whether in observing the aspect of the mission, that some stories can't be developed concerning the history of racial relations in California at the level of the third and fourth grade. I would have some self-doubts about whether you can really get across to a young child questions of class related to race. Maybe they know that as much as they know about race, and I certainly believe that children are conscious of race. But I think we ought to see if we can make it even more critical when we take up a review of relations that takes in, to some extent, the complexity of the history of California, which is where we're at. And if you look at the society and its job allocations, its income distribution, sometimes it does remind you maybe more of Virginia than it does of Beverly Hills.
A question?
Class and race and the allocation of places in society according to those two pairs.
I want to make sure I understand the question. Are you saying, is it possible to talk to young children in a way that is meaningful? Yeah, absolutely. Children have an enormous capacity for understanding, underestimated across the board. Children are they're wired to ask questions, to be curious, to understand inherently what is right and what's wrong. And we do them a huge disservice when we decide that something is too complicated or too painful or beyond their comprehension. Yeah, I think there's always a way. If a child is able to communicate, there is a way to communicate with them about pretty much anything, quite personally.
Can I say something very quickly? the mission system is still there.
Okay.
All you have to do is drive down the highway. Go through the streets of our city.
Okay, in this, we got just I get you guys and then they get me. So we got a couple more questions. Because we started early, we're just gonna do a few more. So let's get this beautiful lake right here.
This is slightly off of the grade school part of it, but on August 6th, when many of us were here and we were being attacked by the people outside, when I left that evening and walked out the door, one of the young men came over to me, and I was making my way over to the restroom actually, and he came over and he said, "Why are you, a white lady, in there with all those white people who only care about black people and colored people? They don't care about us. They only care about all these other people, and you're in there with them, and you're not caring about the rest of us who are out here." And as tragic as that all is and was, I think there's something to learn from it. That I think that one of the things that we talked about in our early rules of the game and things were our own ideals is to also try not to make enemies of everyone, even when they are so harshly against us, and sometimes we feel endangered by them, which I must admit I did that night. But I have to really pull myself back, and it's on this too, about to start training children at a very early age, as you're doing and helping to teach the school district to do that. And the parents have to be brought into how early they have to talk to their children about their privileges. I have 6 grandchildren, and they're privileged. They're all very privileged, and I often remind them when they say, "Oh, he was the smartest one in the class," and I say, "Well, who was the kindest one in the class? And who is the one that really is looking out for other people?" There are many little ways, but I think we also have to apply that to our so-called opposition or whatever. I have a hard time saying it or doing it, believe me. And I know there's a point where you really wonder how to do it. But the fact is, some of the people are hurting in their own way. And they do think you're the problem. You're the problem, because all of a sudden you're getting some power, you're getting some recognition, and I'm not getting any. I'm the poor white, or I'm whatever else. So I'm trying to tell myself also that through our children, our grandchildren, the schools, that we tell them that kindness always works, and you always try to at least understand another person's hurt. It doesn't mean you agree with it, it doesn't mean you don't challenge it, but you remind them that some people are really hurting, and so are some of the adults. And I'm trying to wonder, even if someday the day might come that we'll be able to talk to some of the people that are out here. It sounds crazy, and I know it does, and I'm not saying it's possible, but I'm hoping we'll learn that kindness is also going to help us out a lot.
A great story from a great grandmother. So, can we take 1 or 2 more? Where are my regulators at? Okay, they're not in here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey.
Huh?
That's it.
You guys moved. I was looking for you guys over here. I was looking for the screw face over here. But they're giving it to me from the back. Okay, so can't do not one more? I can do 4. I can do 4. 1. And that's Judy trying to get me in trouble. 3 count. 2, 3, 4. You already talked. Give it to somebody who didn't talk.
Hi, my name is Liz. This is my first meeting, and I'm really encouraged by it. And I think education is critical. And as an African American woman, I know that around the dinner table, it was part of the conversation just because I'm black, my parents are black, and so we looked at things through that perspective. So I'm wondering from an educational perspective, I know you have the parent education, but also is there anything that would encourage parents to actually have their kids be somewhat taught by people of color? Because it's one thing to come from you, but it's always going to be sort of even with your best intentions, it's still going to be kind of through your prism of understanding. But if you have them be around other people who can give you kind of that knowledge, like my mother says, I'm not telling you what I heard, I'm telling you what I know. So I'm wondering if there's an aspect of the curriculum that would be focused on.
Oh, you guys want to respond? Oh, you gonna let Ayana respond? It'll be like this. Okay, here you go.
Just to answer to that, as a part of the education aspect, is that we are looking into that. That's why we talked about having the groups within the schools, the local groups within the school districts, because we do want the education to be reflective of all children. So we understand that we're still at the beginning process of this, but that is one of the ideas that we would like to have as well. Because we know that, education, we know that there's everyone that can do that. So yes, just to answer your question, Virgin, yes, and yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Y'all don't need a mind reader. I just wonder, I know y'all are just beginning your work, but I want to know or to suggest that there are also teachers who, in every school district, who are involved in the fight for social justice. And I taught at LAUSD for 36 years. And was part of, a group of teachers that did that. But also both in the AFPN and the NEA, there are groupings of teachers. And I just wonder if y'all have done any reaching out to those groups, or that's still on the list of things
to do. I'm sorry, we have a sign-in sheet in the back? Is that part of CRJ? Okay, it is? Yeah. What's us?
So you mentioned NEA, they have some really nice listservs right now, like Stopping the School to Prison Pipeline and Racial Justice in Education, that I'm personally a part of, just kind of looking out for resources that are out there. And I know within our district, there's some amazing teachers that are already doing this work in their classrooms, regardless of what the district is telling them to do or not to do. And they make themselves known, throughout the years, and we know who to go to when we're ready to put that stuff together.
Okay, let's get these in before they shut me down. Who's next?
Hi, can you hear me? I'm never sure about these things. My name's Lori Gambino, and I want to thank everyone in here for the work they're doing. And my question is about DACA and where we are with that, since that's ongoing and up for a vote, and how, since that's current, how we're going to address that in schools where kids are feeling so vulnerable and without a country.
I know that the superintendent just put out a statement on behalf of the school district about DACA, so you can go to the district website and look at it. Our partners with the city of Santa Monica, some of whom are here in the room, are also hosting a series of Know Your Rights workshops that have already been happening prior to the DACA announcement, and there's going to be another one soon, I think, on DACA specifically and how to help families navigate that process as well. But yes, that is absolutely the issue of the day, and I'm hopeful that teachers, at the middle or high school level are bringing that into their classroom in terms of current events. I think it's, again, teacher by teacher, but yeah.
That's it. Oh, I'm sorry. Where's 4? It was 4. I did 4? I'm sorry, I have to cut it off. But I did want to offer the same. I know I asked for school board members. Are there city council members in here today? No. Okay. Kevin McKeown, did you want to say something to that?
Well, thank you. I wasn't expecting the end of the dinner, but I was sitting there thinking about a question. What if? A couple of the comments pointed out that the efforts we're making toward greater social justice in education and elsewhere are somehow frightening people who now have white privilege and don't want to give it up. And I wonder if the word privilege isn't part of the problem that we're creating for ourselves, because privilege is a limited asset, okay? If everybody has privilege, nobody has privilege. So they feel that if we want privilege for our people, we're taking it away from their people. What if we talked about participation? Instead of fighting against privilege, let's fight for participation. That every family, every child, every adult, every person, male, female, whatever, in our society has the equal right to participation. Because participation is not a limited asset. The more people participate, the more we all have. So that's my question, just sitting here listening to this. What if instead of talking about privilege, instead of fighting against privilege, we choose to fight for participation? What happens then?
You know, let them.
Somebody from CRJ, please.
So it reminds me of us talking about the achievement gap and the achievement opportunity. It sort of like puts us in this realm of if you want it, if you want to participate, you can. And therefore, everything becomes equal. That's what gets played over in my head. Whereas white privilege may not be the best term, we damn sure need something to speak to the inequities that happens in health. It isn't because white people don't participate in the criminal justice system that you have more black people in jail. They commit crimes. We all commit crimes basically on the same level, especially when it deals with drugs. We have found that black folks don't do no more drugs than the people in Brentwood. Yet, as Michelle Alexander points out, when the police go looking for the people that do drugs, he's looking for Pookie, he ain't looking for Evan. Okay, so we need to be really careful about how we frame what it is that we say that we want and how we're going to go about getting it. So, I just want to say this because I was told by our facilitator, coordinator, that when we leave out, and we're not quite done, but when we leave out, we should leave out in pairs. Let's not just sort of wander through the parking lot on our own.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we are about to bring Trudy back to close us out, right? Okay, good. Because they just did this.
This is going to be sort of difficult. Yeah, let's see if we can't do a circle. If we can't do one, let's do two. We're going to do a spiral. As long as we are holding hands. Stand up. Okay. We're going to close as we have been for the last couple of months with a chant from Assata Shakur. And this is a powerful solidarity chant. So we're going to start out very, very low, very soft.
Then we're gonna move up to a medium level. And then we want the, what are they called? The Proud Boys in Huntington Beach to hear us.
From in front of the camera. Thank you.
It is our duty to fight for freedom. It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and protect one another.
We must love and protect one another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
It is our duty to fight for freedom.
It is our duty to fight for freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and protect one another.
We must love and protect one another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Okay, hands up above your head. It is our duty to fight for freedom.
It is our duty to fight for freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and protect one another.
We must love and protect one another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Ashe.
I don't know a lot of you, but I think
Around town and see you next month. Is your friends here?
Yes, do come back next month. Don't let them think they can come back next month and catch us by surprise.